So, for whom is in the wine club for a while, you probably notice how much we're focusing on Sardinia. We had even a couple of complaints last year. There was one of our wine club members that was an only red, and so it happened that for one shipment, one of the two shipment was like six Sardinian wines, and maybe we over reacted on the concept of Sardinia. But this is to tell you how incredible is this region that I have to say after 25 years of wine tastings and being in the wine business, I discovered it. My first epiphany of Sardinia happened 12 years ago when my very good friend and wine journalist Dario Cappelloni proposed me to do a kind of a particular tasting. He discovered these wines from Mamoiada. He was one of the first that started to promote Sedilesu. Mamoiada, just trying to geographically explain it, is a village, a little town of 2,000 inhabitants on the mountains of Gennargentu in an area called Barbagia. And it's an area that is totally different from the seaside. And you have to understand, as I actually repeated a lot of times, that Sardinia is a place where most of the culture has been developed far away from the sea. This is mainly due to the fact that it's been attacked by a lot of, from France and Spain, and historically it's been always risky to live on the seaside. And it's an incredible culture, really complex. There is a misunderstanding about how Sardinians has been stereotyped of the idea of this like shepherds, and the sheep is the main animal that has been colonized the country. But it's technically the sheep were the Pecorino Sardo, which is the main production of Pecorino Romano. It is a new thing. It's only 150 years that we have ships. Wine is probably the thing that can focus. There was a big discussion about the origin of Cannonau. Cannonau is the Italian translation of Grenache, or we can say the Grenache is the French translation of Cannonau. And French pretended that they imported the Cannonau in Sardinia. Then Spanish said that they imported Cannonau in Sardinia. They recently discovered an archaeological site where there were jars with seeds of Cannonaus that were more than 3,500 years old. So that was a great achievement for the Sardinian pride, because they finally discovered the Cannonau is originally from Sardinia, and after that arrived in Spain and France. Now, it's not, how I am suspicious about defining wine based only on the concept of grape variety. The varietal approach to wine description is mainly from the 90s and the late 20th century. And at the beginning, before traditionally wines were regionally determined and probably mixed with different grape varieties. But for sure, in the last years, what happened in Sardinia now that we have a lot of winemakers that are starting to bottle in the wine. It's one of the few regions, possibly the only region, that maintain a continuity. They were not totally colonized by industrialization and the effect of the Marshall Plan that they redesigned the concept of agriculture. And most of the farmers in Italy, most of them, they left the farms, because when you have trucks that can do the job of 50 or 100 farmers, of course, and they leave the countryside, they start to go to live in the cities and so on. Sardinia maintain a bit that kind of a soul, especially in areas like Mamoiada, like Neoneli, and so on. What is actually interesting there, that Mamoiada is a place of 2,000 inhabitants and has got more than 500 local winemakers. These winemakers are not winemakers that are, they're bottling the wine. Their wines that are technically made for their own consumption, and maybe selling some wine in a jar if you pass by. Is the concept of the Anse concept of Vin de Garage that became famous in the 80s and the early 90s in Bordeaux. And so we're talking about wines that are somehow, they don't exist in the market. And so we started to promote these winemakers. We started to select them. I need to deeply thank Dario Cappelloni for that. So we did a tasting with all these wines that were coming in plastic water bottles because I asked Dario to select some of the more interesting ones, and one of them was Viche Viche Simone. It's this is the wife of Viche Viche Federica, and we're talking about Mamoyada here. And now he's becoming an important winemaker. I think he has to be thankful mainly for the quality of his wine, but also for how much we promoted them. And is creating a virtual, beautiful cooperation between winemakers. And Simone, like Samuel and Simone, what I love about Simone that he helped a lot to promote even other winemakers. Pasquale Bonamici, you had it in the wine club last year. Another one is Antonio Mele, for example, and he's the president of the Festival of Mamoyada, the Mamutones, which is beautiful. We just finished to edit a documentary that talks about this incredible party that happened on January 16 and 17 when they wear this ancient mask and they drink wine. It's something so wild and pre-Christian and almost a Dionysus party. And the wines of Canonau there in Mamoyada are this incredibly strong Garrigue flavor with nice spicy. Is Mediterranean, is like quintessential concept of Mediterranean. And this is made by Federica. Federica is the wife of Simone, and she has been working for a while at Romane Conti. She's an enologist, and she's such a beautiful lady. And what I love about her wines are slightly more elegant than the average production of Canonau of that area, and is a type of wine that has that kind of a hint Burgundy touch. So she was in Burgundy, she studied there. Romane Conti is probably the most important winery in the world. So she makes only 2,000 bottles. We bought almost the entire production of it. So, and it's a unique wine. On the other side, we have a wine from Cantina di Neonelli, and this is the village is even smaller. We're talking about 600 inhabitants with 130, 140 winemakers, and only one is actually bottling, which is Cantina di Neonelli. When I tasted this wine, I immediately loved them, and I started to support them so much. We buy like 80, 90% of the entire production. We're making three different projects that are separated and that are unique. One is because we bought a vineyard with our crowdfunding and we gave it back for free to the winemaker, is the vineyard of Totoni. The wine is at the moment is in the bottle and will probably be released in a year more or less. And there is another wine, a project that started a year ago that is called the Statale 131, which is the road that connects Neonelli to Sorso, because we asked to Sorso, to Lisureddi, which is another winemaker, to blend their white with the white of this winery, and we did the same thing with the red. We created a unique type of wine. The white wine is one of the most interesting things that I've been tasting in the last 5-6 years, and it's only 350 bottles. To have them, you need to be a really good friend of mine or of Julia or of Lindsay, or to be part of the Collector Wine Club, because it's only 300 bottles. But we're planning to do more of them later. In this case, we're talking about Domestica, which is a blend of different grape varieties. It's not just Canonau, there is also a bit of a Pascale, and it's so powerful and rich. So this is a wine that has got an incredible structure that can be aged, in my opinion, for another 10 years with absolutely no problem. We're talking about both wines with a high alcohol that needs surely some food with a bit of structure. Again, I will, hard cheese, for example, with a bit of age. Manchego could be like Parmigiano Reggiano or Comté. When we talk about like meat, it could be anything that is like pork or a bit of game.